Hello and welcome to this introduction to crossings with 3 and 3D Builder. This tutorial is divided in 3 parts. In the first one, we will create a simple crossing. Then we will edit it using the crossing attributes. Finally, we will explore the crossing WYSIWYG helpers that allow us to edit it in a more interactive way directly on the viewport. So, open a new project, create a grid, set the projection on grid and apply. A simple crossing can be created by intersecting two roads, so let's start by creating them. I will speed up the video a bit since we have already seen the workflow to create roads in previous tutorials. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to do so. The video is called Road Fundamentals and you will find the link on the text description down below. So, we have our roads, but that's no crossing at all. That's just two overlapping roads. They are intersecting, but they are not connected. We can see that here, so that's one road, that's the other road. In order to connect it, I like to go out from WYSIWYG mode, select both of the roads, and then on the top menu bar, press Create Profile Crossings. There we have a dialog with the attributes of our crossing. We are gonna let it in the default settings now because it's possible to change it later. I will show you how. So press OK, and now we select them. We go to WYSIWYG mode and we have our crossing. Now the roads are connected, and in our vector tree also we see we have not only our road vector group that we had before, we see that we have a crossing group too, and a bunch of WYSIWYG helpers. Way more than we had before when we just had the two roads, because there are some special helpers just for crossings. So let's select our crossing group. We have just one, but we are gonna go anyway to element mode. If you have more in your project, you need to go to element mode if you just want to edit one of them. So go to the crossing modifier, and here are the attributes that we can tweak. Are the same attributes that we had before when creating it. And I'm going to change the material of the crossing so we can identify better where is it. That's our crossing. Now let's talk about the next attribute, the crossing curves. The curve offset can be defined as the distance between the intersection of the outer lines of our original roads and the intersection of the imaginary line that represents the starting point of our crossings with the outer line of our road. That happens for each of the roads, and it's called offset curve because it defines the bevel of the surrounding curve. That's easy to see with some examples. Let's put a curve offset of 15. Okay. And here we see the effect of the 15 meters. We can do one with 1 meter offset. Let's see how it looks like. Yep, we see it here. So now that I guess we have already explained the curve offset, I'm gonna leave it in 3. And let's move to the curve segments. Curve segments is like the number of segments for that curve. If we have more segments, we will have like a very smooth curve. If we have less, we have an stepped curve. If you don't have a very powerful workstation and you are working with huge databases, that may be an option for you. For us, let's keep a value of 20. The rest of the attributes in the crossing modifier are related with height. We will talk in a future about them, especially in tutorials about the different crossing types. So let's move to the crossing WYSIWYG helpers and how we can edit our crossings with them. Let's start with the crossing starting point. It has a very descriptive name because it defines exactly that. The point where our road ends and our crossing starts. You can edit it by moving it around, going into element mode and then pressing T, translate. and here you can see the effect of translating or crossing a starting point in that particular road. And since we are in WYSIWYG mode, we see all changes interactively on the viewport, what's great. I'm not gonna talk about the HD separators because we already talked about them in a previous tutorial. Let's move to the crossing curves. So if we select one of the crossing curves, like we selected in element mode, and then we go into point mode, just by selecting the tangents, and you can translate them using the translate tool, like you can see here. So let's move now to the crossing internal roads. You select them as usual in element mode, and under the profile HD you have options to change, for example, the marking. Right now it's not very realistic for a car to go in that lane, it's a bit too, it's not road enough. So we are able to change that marking curve. Usually the crossing internal roads are clotoid or splines. You can change that in the preferences. In my case are splines, and I can move it like as any other spline by selecting the tangent points and moving them around like you see it here. And the last thing about crossing is the all-important reset crossing button. If for any reason you are not happy with your crossing, or it breaks under strange circumstances, or whatever it is, you can always reset it by using that button. First you need to have selected your crossing in the vector tree, and let's see how it works. It basically resets all the changes made with the WYSIWYG helpers. The ones made in the crossing modifier, like the material of the crossing or the curve offsets, still there. And that was all for that tutorial. Thanks a lot and see you next time.